Build muscle, burn fat. 5 simple steps. In this video, whether you're driving or working out, just consider listening and taking it in. I'm going to share with you the 5 simple steps on how to build muscle and burn fat. And then if you do have access to pen and paper, consider grabbing that pen and paper. You can take some notes. I'm going to share with you some key things that can take your fitness level and building muscle and burning fat to the next level. So first things first is to consider having clear, specific goals. On your fitness journey, I feel like it's very important to have a clear, specific direction. So let's do a little drill. If you could wave a realistic magic wand and you can have your body, your health, your energy, any kind of way you want it to be between now and say a year from now, what does that look like for you? Think about it. Get clear and specific. Dial it in. Think about it. Kind of play with this exercise. Have kind of a childlike enthusiasm and fascination, and just think about what would you want for your body, for your health, for your energy. How would you like to feel? How would you like to look? Think about it. Then narrow it down possibly to a specific body weight and a body fat percent. Now, why does narrowing it down to a specific body weight and body fat percent is important is because that gives you a very clear and specific goal, a path to your success. So once you have your clear and specific goal, let's do a little affirmation / prayer. So here it goes. This is for your daily affirmation / prayer. I am happy and grateful now that I am your body weight and your body fat percent goal. Now I'll use myself as an example in this exercise. So I'll share with you my affirmation / prayer that I use daily. Here it is. I am happy and grateful now that I am at least 190 pounds and at or below 10% body fat. Now I go on, I build that out. I have a whole paragraph full of fitness affirmation / prayer. And then also too, I say my other goals too, and in that sense as well. So it's something you can include if you feel like it's beneficial to you. So it's an affirmation / prayer. You have a clear, specific goal. So we're not just randomly pursuing fitness without a specific goal, right? Now, once you have a clear, specific body weight and a clear, specific body fat, which if you're not everybody I feel is aware of the ranges of body fat. So one little hack to do for body fat percentage learning is to go online and do a Google search for men's and women's body fat percentages. And it's going to pull up men's and women's body fat percent ranges from say like 5% all the way up to over 40%. And you can see the differences and you can gauge where you're at and then where you want to be. That's a good little hack to consider. Now, once you have that set, the 5 simple steps to build muscle and burn fat are exercising, nutrition, recovery, supplementation, and mindset. Now let's dig into this a little bit. Let's look at training, for example. So training. So when it comes to your training program, consider having a blend of both cardiovascular exercise and strength training exercise. Now imagine for a moment that we have a twin engine airplane and we're flying along. On one engine is cardiovascular engine and the other engine is strength training engine. Now, not including, everything getting going, but if you have both engines going, we're flying along. But now imagine if we just have one engine working. Well, it's not going to be as inefficient as the plane as if we have both engines working. So I encourage you on your fitness training program, I encourage you to have a blend of strength training and cardiovascular training. Blend it. Have a combo. right? So that's training and nutrition. I mean, I'm sorry, that's training, meaning have a blend of strength training and cardiovascular training. Now, let's look at how to build out a proper training program. I feel there are basically 5 basic fundamentals to focus on when building out a proper training program. 1 is proper form, then variety, intensity, proper training principles, and consistency. Let's look at proper form. Now, what are the benefits of proper form when exercising? I know it probably sounds kind of obvious, right? Well, there's 2 big reasons. 1 is so that we exercise the muscle effectively, and then 2 is so that we don't get an injury. An injury will be awful pain in the butt setback. So making sure that you're doing proper form will really help a long ways into making sure that you don't get an injury. And then also, 2, the proper form will make sure you're going to get the most out of it. That's the thing. You want to get the most out of it, right? So now, how do you learn proper form? You know, a good way to do it is just go online and look up the YouTube shorts and Instagram and all that, and study other people's forms. When you write out your program for the week, look up the exercises that are in your program and study the form. Go over it a few times, 2 or 3 different people's opinions on form. And then when you go in the gym, you practice it and work on it. Make it a journey. Make it an ongoing study to master the form. If you do that, it'll do you so much benefit. So I encourage you to consider doing that. So we talked about proper form, now variety. What is the purpose of variety? Why should we change it up every now and then? Why have variety into our program? Well, 2 big reasons. 1 is so that we mentally don't get bored. I know a lot of people get bored of doing the same thing over and over again. 2 is so that our bodies don't get bored. Have you ever heard of a plateau? A plateau is where you get to a certain level and then you just can't really break that level. If you're doing the same exercises all the time, the same rep ranges, the same tempo, the same kind of body breakdown, you're gonna adapt and you're gonna reach a plateau at some point. So over time, I found that the longer you exercise, the faster you adapt. So when someone's brand new into a program, you're not going to adapt as quick, so a program might last longer. And you're going to see results really good that first 6 months, 12 months. But then if you do the same things over and over again, you will have a plateau. But if you change it up occasionally, I feel like you'll keep that momentum going better. So proper training, proper form, variety, intensity. Let's look at intensity. What comes to mind when you think about exercising with intensity? What comes to mind? Challenging yourself, pushing yourself, right? Overloading the muscle. Imagine for a moment that we're doing chest presses and we're going for 12 repetitions. We get to 9, 10, 11, 12. We barely get number 12, but we got number 12. What's the most beneficial part of that set? The first few reps or the last few reps? What'll be the last few, right? And why? That's where the overload occurs. That's where the breakdown of the occurs. When you overload that muscle in those last few reps, when you push into that intensity, you're overloading and breaking down that muscle so that it must repair and get stronger over the next few days. So we talked about proper form, variety, intensity. Let's look at proper training principles. There are several different training principles to consider. Things like compound sets, supersets, drop sets, rest pause training, circuit training. There are lots. I encourage you to consider a study into different training principles and then incorporate them over time into your routine. And then last but not least is consistency. What do you think of when you think about consistency? Well, consider, say you have a twin of you, and we're going to meet back in 1 year. You start off working out 4 days a week, you eat healthy, you get your rest. The other person doesn't start off as well, misses a few workouts here and there, skips a few workouts here and there. At the end of the year, when you meet back, who's going to have the best results? That'd be the consistent person, the consistent version of yourself. I encourage you to be consistent on your program with your training, nutrition, recovery, supplementation, and mindset. So just to summarize, we talked about the 5 fundamentals of training: a proper form, variety, intensity, proper training principles, and consistency. Now let's look at nutrition. Imagine for a moment that we want to build a beautiful 2-story house from scratch. And imagine that we only have half the materials necessary to build the house. How far are we going to get? Probably about halfway, right? Part of the way. The foods that you and I eat on a daily basis are the supplies that goes towards building our bodies. So what I recommend considering a whole food, plant-based diet composed of 50% fruits and vegetables, 25% whole grains, and 25% plant-based proteins, like legumes, lentils, nuts, and seeds. If you want to do a little deeper dive into it, consider watching the documentary The Game Changers. It's performed or produced by a former MMA fighter who did it on an injury outing and did a deep dive into nutrition, and then came up with what he found to be the best way scientifically to eat. So I encourage you to watch that documentary, The Game Changers, on Netflix and YouTube. Now let's look at what happens when we eat foods. What happens? I feel like there are basically 4 different ways that eating affects our bodies: metabolism, energy levels, insulin levels, and blood sugar levels. Now imagine that we have a fireplace, and on one hand we have a stack of oak wood, and on the other hand we have a stack of papers. And we want to get a fire going, and not including kindling and getting the fire started. But if we had to choose between the oak wood or the paper to burn in the fireplace, to burn as your fuel, which one would you pick and why? Would you rather have the oak wood or the paper? Well, most people would choose the oak wood, and why? Because it's going to burn longer, slower, more efficiently. Some foods burn more like the oak wood, and some foods burn more like the paper. So what foods burn more like the oak wood? Whole plant-based foods like fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, lentils, nuts, and seeds. They burn really slow, really efficient. They're going to minimize insulin and blood sugar spikes. They're going to keep your energy levels nice and stable. Now let's look at recovery. Over the last few years, I've had the honor of training 3 different neurologists, one a neuroradiologist, and they all know a lot about brain health and sleep health, and they've all come up with that they recommend 7.5 to 9 hours of sleep a night. And on top of that, I've done additional studies, and it seems as that they're about recommending 2 hours of deep and 2 hours of REM sleep. Now, how can you improve your odds of getting a better night's sleep? Here are a few things to consider. One is not eating at least 2 hours before sleep time. What happens is, as we eat, our metabolism gets boosted and heats up, and we want to have a cooling down effect of our body. So if you give yourself 2 hours, I'm even getting further and further out now, 3 to 4 hours. Some people do. I'm testing that. And your body cools down as you get ready to sleep, and it gives you a better quality night's sleep. A few other things you can do for sleep is to limit blue screens, TVs, laptops, things like that. 1 to 2 hours before bedtime. Have a nice, cool, dark environment. Use a sleep mask if that works for you. Now let's look at supplementation. I feel like there are basically two different types of supplementation: nutritional supplementation and enhancement performance supplementation. Nutritional supplementation is like protein shakes, protein bars, things like that. And then enhancement performance supplements is things like creatine. And if you're over 40 doing hormones or these weight loss medications, I feel like that can fall in that enhancement supplement category. Now let's finish it up with mindset. So we have, to summarize, we have exercise, nutrition, recovery, supplementation, and mindset. When it comes to fitness, the power of the mindset is so important. So that's why I encourage you to consider having a very clear, very specific goal. And then once you have that clear, specific goal, consider wrapping it up in this affirmation: I am happy and grateful now that I am, and then state your body weight and your body fat percent. So I'll use myself as an example. I am happy and grateful now that I am at least 190 pounds and at or below 10% body fat. And then you can go on and even say more positive things you want to have in your life. The point of the affirmation is part of this mindset drill is that we're putting ourselves in the state in the future state. I'm saying I am happy and grateful right now for something that I'm actually working on. So that's the mindset. So I hope you see the power in this. It's I am happy and grateful now that I am, and state your body weight and your body fat percent. Using that mindset, and then daily employing proper training, nutrition, recovery, supplementation, and mindset will ultimately lead you to success. As you're going on your fitness journey, consider that it's like we're going against resistance. If you've ever been in the ocean and felt that tide of the ocean water, and if you ever kind of gone against the tide, it's kind of tough. It's going against that resistance. Daily, weekly, monthly, as you're training, you're eating, you're sleeping, you're taking your supplements, you're working on your mindset, you're daily cutting through resistance by being consistent. It's that consistency of putting the effort into your training, the nutrition, the recovery, the supplementation, the mindset, daily, weekly, monthly, full moon after full moon, year after year, decade after decade, being consistent. You will continue to cut through that resistance. If you skip workouts and skip meals and go that way, you'll end off falling off the bandwagon and not having the fitness journey that you're looking for. So consider just being really, really consistent on your journey, right? But that mindset will help you do it. So we're daily, every day in the morning, consider doing your affirmation / prayer. I am happy and grateful now that I am, and then state your goal body weight and goal body fat percent. And then back it up daily with the proper training, nutrition, recovery, supplementation, and mindset. So then whether you get help or do it on your own, I encourage you to consider just following through. I will be here, ideally, God willing, every Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday, 1:30 p.m. Pacific time, 4:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, to answer your questions, encourage you in any kind of way possible. And then but that's sometimes you might need more. So if you want personal training in your area, consider finding the best personal training you can, if that's within your budget range, and having a personal trainer coach you through all these things. If you live in Tucson, consider reaching out to me here. And also but then there's one more thing to consider, and it's virtual fitness training. That's where I found it's about 1/3 of the cost of personal training, but it's where I set up your program and then hold you accountable to the program. So if you're interested in finding out more about that, consider reaching out to me to 520-400-9573. And we'll do a complimentary consultation. I'll go over your goals, and no matter what, I'll assist you to get to the next level. And remember that our health is wealth. What difference does it make what earthly possessions we have if we don't have our health? So consider keeping and taking care and being healthy and taking care of your health, because your health, our health is wealth. And be blessed, and I'll be back. Today is Tuesday. God willing, I'll be here Thursday, 1:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 4:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Be blessed.